In the 15th century, along the banks of the mighty Niger River, a remarkable empire emerged. The Songhai Empire, strategically positioned on trans-Saharan trade routes, thrived as a hub for commerce, accumulating wealth and cultural diversity. At its peak, it was one of the largest African empires in history, and then it disappeared. Howzit? My name is Dr. Jacob Seidnote. As always, this is Stashy, and you're watching The Historian Stash. West Africa is home to many of Africa's oldest kingdoms. These kingdoms played an important role in the development of trade and economic growth of the region. As the older kingdoms came to be replaced by newer, smaller ones, many changes were experienced. These changes were influenced by conquest and war, along with the establishment of trade routes. West African societies were shaped by the need to compete for wealth and an urge to be free from more powerful kingdoms. Now, the earliest African civilizations south of the Sahara were in West Africa. These civilizations developed around the 5th century. This was approximately the same time as the fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476 Common Era. One of the earliest kingdoms to emerge here was ancient Ghana to the far west. The economy of ancient Ghana was based on iron and gold mining along with agriculture. These products were traded with the Berber societies who were chilling north of the Sahara Desert. Then, during the 13th century, the Mali kingdom of the Mandi people to the east of Ghana became the new kid on the block, increasing its control of trade in the region. This didn't sit well with the Ghana kingdom, and so they went to war with the Mali kingdom. But the Ghana guys were defeated and the Mali kingdom took them over. The Mali kingdom was able to establish influence in the region because of the surrounding savanna terrain. This enabled it to send its armies across the region to conquer its neighbors. Talk about bad neighbors. Somewhere around the 1500s, the Mali people adopted the religion of Islam, unifying everyone in the kingdom under one faith. But this did not stop internal conflict over who should succeed the Mali throne. In addition, there were rebellions by the Fulani people in the Senegambia and the Songhai people in Gao. All of these factors led to the eventual collapse of the Mali kingdom in the 16th century. Songhai became independent of Mali, and over the next few years it rivaled Mali as the leading power in West Africa. Now, the Songhai established their independent state on both banks of the middle Niger River in the 1430s. This unified a large part of the Western Sudan and developed into a complex society. Songhai was ruled by the Sunni royal family from the 13th century to the late 15th century. Their capital was at Gao. Now, this city was a great cosmopolitan marketplace where cocoa nuts, gold, ivory, spices, palm oil, precious woods, and slaves were traded in exchange for salt, cloth, arms, horses, and copper.
There's a lot going on here.
Islam had been introduced to the royal court of Songhai in 1019, so most Songhai kings practiced it as their religion. Now, while Songhai was already independent in the 1430s, it would only rise as a regional power in the 1460s. And the reason for this rise is largely thanks to one man, Sunni Ali. Sunni Ali was a natural-born military leader. His military prowess and strategic brain allowed the empire to expand its borders significantly. Sunni Ali's conquests laid the foundations for the empire's economic prosperity, as captured territories became integral to trade routes and commerce. But old Sunni boy was not always a popular heroic figure. For example, after he annexed Timbuktu in 1468, many Muslim accounts described him as a tyrant. This sentiment was echoed by Islamic historian al-Sadi when describing what happened when Ali and his forces entered Timbuktu. Sunni Ali entered Timbuktu, committed gross iniquity, burnt and destroyed the town, and brutally tortured many people there. When Akilu heard of the coming of Sunni Ali, he brought 1,000 camels to carry the fukawa of Sankor and went with them to Walata. The godless tyrant slaughtered those who remained in Timbuktu and humiliated them.
The single most important primary source for the history of the Songhai Empire is the Tariq al-Sudan. It's a West African chronicle written in Arabic in around 1655 by the Timbuktu writer al-Sadi. The Tariq al-Sudan and the Tariq al-Fatish, another 17th century chronicle giving a history of Songhai, are together known as the Timbuktu Chronicles.
Sunni Ali even created a policy against the scholars of Timbuktu, especially those of the Sankor region who were associated with the Tuareg. Sunni would also often use questionable tactics to achieve military success. For example, when he attempted to conquer the town of Jannah, the locals resisted, so he laid siege to the town and slowly starved them for 7 long years until they surrendered. In terms of his army, Sunni Ali completely restructured it. He organized a naval fleet on the Niger River, enabling his army to be deployed upriver at speed. The commander of the fleet was given the grandiose title of Hikoi, which is understood to mean Master of the Water. Sunni's recruitment drive for his army was also pretty hectic. After each conquest, his soldiers were ordered to capture and enslave the very best men of the defeated army, thereby absorbing them into his army. In addition, he commanded an elite cavalry that was fast and tough. Some of his cavalry were specialized archers who could fire arrows from horseback. But he didn't just have a normal horse cavalry. Nah, that would be too vanilla for Sunni Ali.
Absolutely.
He also had an entire unit of camel cavalry. Other animals were also utilized by the army. Longhorn bulls were trained to charge at the enemy, while vultures were used to harass the enemy forces.
We can't just be normal.
Imagine being in an army and you're attacked by a cavalry of camels. Or being charged by a regiment of trained bulls. Or being hassled overhead by an enemy of vultures. Now, Sunni soldiers were well trained and well armed. They were armed with spears, arrows, and leather or copper shields. They also knew the power of psyching out their opponent before the battle even commenced. They did this by having a group of trumpeters blast off military music just before battle, just to intimidate the enemy further.
Intimidation!
Sunni Ali's army comprised approximately of 30,000 infantry and 10,000 horsemen. The Songhai defense system was the largest organized force in the Western Sudan. So his military was not only a political instrument, but also an economic weapon by virtue of the booty it brought in.
Shake, shake, shake. Shake, shake, shake. Shake your booty. Shake your booty.
With his control of critical trade routes in cities such as Timbuktu, Sunni Ali increased the wealth of the Songhai Empire, which at its height would surpass the wealth of Mali. The capital of the Songhai Empire was situated at Gao. From here, Old Sunni wielded absolute and sacred power. Just like the Ming emperors we discussed last week, Sunni Ali was a despotic ruler. He also seemed to have an issue with height, because he would insist that anyone who wanted to talk to him should approach him on their hands and knees, with their heads down on the ground. As if that wasn't enough, he sat on a raised platform surrounded by 700 eunuchs. Now, you should know by now what a eunuch is, right?
How would I become a eunuch?
Well, they cut off your testicles.
So this dude had some serious issues. And people paid taxes to him in return for security. Now, the royal court was responsible for the administration as well as the army. Large estates belonged to nobles. Under these nobles, peasants fished, raised animals for milk, meat and skins, as well as did agricultural work on these estates at the instruction of the nobles.
I thought we were an autonomous collective.
During Sunni's reign, the Songhai Empire became greater than what the Mali Empire ever was, taking over areas under the Mali Empire. And then, on the 6th of November 1492, Sunni Ali died.
Hey, man.
Some records show that he drowned while crossing the Niger River, but according to oral tradition, he was killed by his nephew, Askia Muhammad Tura.
What's wrong with you?
Askia would later challenge Sunni's son and successor to the throne, because apparently Askia believed he was not a faithful Muslim. Askia eventually took power, and so the Sunni era was over, replaced by the Askia dynasty. Askia, later known as Askia the Great, organized the territories which Sunni had conquered and extended his power to the south and east. Under his rule, the Songhai military possessed a full-time corps of warriors. Askia was a firm Muslim, and so he went about opening religious schools, building mosques, and opening his royal court to scholars and poets from throughout the Muslim world. His children went to an Islamic school, but while he enforced Islamic practices, he didn't force religion onto his people. Askia was also very interested in astronomy, the study of stars and planets. So he encouraged an influx of astronomers to his capital, as well as the construction of observatories. During Askia's reign, Islam became more entrenched, the rich salt mines of Tagaza were brought within the Songhai Empire's borders, and trans-Saharan trade flourished. Overland trade was influenced by 4 factors: camels, Berber tribe members, Islam, and the structure of the empire. Gold was readily available in West Africa, but salt was not, so the gold-salt trade was the backbone of overland trade routes in the region. Ivory, ostrich feathers, and slaves were sent north in exchange for salt, horses, camels, cloth, and art. Now, believe it or not, the slave trade was very important for the economic development of West Africa. For a long time, slaves were crucial for West African kingdoms, who utilized enslaved people to carry out the rough and tough jobs. The Songhai kingdom under Askia the Great used slaves as soldiers. Apparently, slaves were trusted enough not to overthrow the government. Some slaves were even given important positions as royal advisors. This is because Songhai rulers believed that slaves could be trusted to give unbiased advice, unlike free citizens who had a personal stake in the outcome of decisions.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Another group of slaves was known as palace slaves, or the arbi. The arbi slaves served mainly as craftspeople, potters, woodworkers, and even musicians. But slaves also worked on village farms to help produce enough food to supply the growing population in towns. Now, turning back to the importance of trade in the Songhai Empire, at the height of its power, the Songhai Empire emerged as a vibrant hub of travel and trade, with its jewel city, Timbuktu, standing at the crossroads of cultural exchange and economic prosperity. Situated on the Niger River, Timbuktu was well placed, as goods were offloaded from camels there onto either donkeys or boats. From there, they were transported along an 800-kilometer corridor, either to Jena upstream or downstream to Gao. So now, let's travel to the bustling markets of Timbuktu, where merchants from all over the region, and even as far as Europe, sought to trade goods. As a result, a rich tapestry of commerce and cultural interaction existed in the streets of Timbuktu. Arab merchants played a pivotal role in the trade networks of the Songhai Empire. Drawing upon the centuries-old tradition of trans-Saharan trade, Arab traders navigated the vast desert expanses to reach the flourishing markets of Timbuktu. They brought with them not only goods such as spices, textiles, and precious metals, but also a wealth of knowledge, contributing to the scholarly reputation of Timbuktu. Surprisingly, Italian merchants also found their way to the heart of West Africa. The maritime routes connecting the Mediterranean to the Atlantic facilitated the arrival of Italian traders seeking to capitalize on the wealth of the Songhai Empire. In Timbuktu's markets, they exchanged goods such as glassware, ceramics, and textiles, creating a fusion of Italian and African craftsmanship. Jewish traders also flocked to Timbuktu. These merchants, often traveling all the way from the Maghreb and the Mediterranean Sea, engaged in the flourishing exchange of goods and ideas. Their presence in Timbuktu highlighted the cosmopolitan nature of the city, presenting an environment of tolerance and diversity.
The main focus is going to be diversity.
But as with most empires, the Songhai Empire was destined to fall. By 1528, Askia was ill and had become increasingly politically isolated. So his own children decided to overthrow him. Not cool, bruh. He was succeeded by his son Askia Musa and banished to an island in the Niger River. Over there, he became an island boy.
'Cause I'm an island boy.
And he eventually died in 1538.
Do your thing, man.
As for Musa, he only ruled for 3 years before getting bounced himself by one of his brothers. From 1531 onwards, the Songhai Empire went into decline. Then in 1583, after the death of Emperor Askia Dawood, a war of succession split the Songhai Empire into two feuding factions. Meanwhile, Moroccan armies had destroyed a Portuguese invasion at the Battle of Alcacer Quibir, but they themselves were left on the verge of economic depletion and bankruptcy as a result of the military campaign. So they looked to conquer other territories with rich raw materials to restore their own wealth. For the Moroccans, the declining Songhai Empire was ripe for the picking. They sought to seize control of and revive the trans-Saharan trade in salt and gold, and capture slaves for their developing sugar industry. So in 1591, Moroccan Sultan Ahmad al-Mansur of the Saudi dynasty dispatched an invasion force south under the eunuch Udal Pasha. Is it just me, or is there a pattern emerging between castrated men and invasions? It's almost like they're compensating for something.
Alright, let's back up. Let's go back a little bit. Let's clear some stuff up.
He's super brave. I've always been the super clever one, and he's always been super brave. And super ballless.
Stop saying that! Both of my balls are right here!
In spirit.
Anyways, Judar Pasha was a Spaniard by birth, but had been captured as an infant and educated at the Saudi court. He then became a military leader. In 1591, he and his army marched across the Sahara Desert and then proceeded to capture, plunder and raze the salt mines at Tagaza. They then turned their sights on the Songhai capital Gao. The Songhai Emperor at the time, Askia Ishak II, sent his forces to meet Judar in what would become the Battle of Tondibi. The Songhai forces outnumbered Judar's army, but a cattle stampede, initiated by the firing of the Moroccan forces' weapons, charged towards the Songhai, causing chaos and ultimately leading to the Songhai defeat. Judar then proceeded to loot Gao, Timbuktu and Jenne, destroying the Songhai as a regional power. The decline of the Songhai Empire had lasting repercussions for the region. The Moroccan conquest not only marked the end of the Songhai Empire, but also had a profound impact on the political landscape of West Africa. But while the Songhai Empire's political power waned, its cultural and intellectual contributions endured. The manuscripts housed in Timbuktu's libraries, showcasing advancements in various fields, became a testament to the empire's intellectual legacy. The lessons learnt in Timbuktu continue to influence subsequent West African civilizations. The Songhai Empire's influence extended beyond its borders, shaping the course of African history. Its achievements in governance, trade, and scholarship laid the groundwork for the development of subsequent African civilizations. In the 15th and 16th centuries, the Songhai Empire stood as a formidable force, weaving together the threads of trade, cultural exchange, and intellectual pursuits. Its rise under Sunni Ali and the cultural boom during Askia Muhammad's reign and decline in the face of internal and external challenges form a narrative that reflects the complexities of empire building. The legacy of the Songhai Empire is still alive and well in the writings of Timbuktu's scholars, the artifacts from its marketplaces, and their manuscripts that continue to be a source of inspiration for scholars and historians alike. The Songhai Empire, with its blend of military might, economic prosperity, and cultural flourishing, remains a testament to the richness and resilience of African civilizations in the context of world history. That's it for now. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe on YouTube so that you can get the latest from the historian Stash. From Stashy and myself, stay Stashy.